It has been a long time. Let some people trickle in before we get the stream underway. How's everybody doing? US Man CT says, is this astrology for crypto like financial astrology? It's astrology for men. We read the charts. It's male astrology. Oh, let me stop the music. But yes, it is crypto related. It is financial astrology, as in what do we see in the charts when we take a look at them. It has been a while since the last stream, and I do apologize about that, everybody. Not expecting a huge crowd today. Usually takes a little bit of time to get back into the swing of things before people start recognizing that the streams are back, get them rolling out. But I do want to say GM. I am 0xRapture, and this is Astrology for Men, where I will chart any shitcoin with a pulse. Although the show does skew heavily towards perps and less towards on-chain new pairs, I will chart any shitcoin with a pulse. So how's everyone been? Not too many viewers right now. Pretty small turnout. That's okay. You know, it takes some time. When I start these streams back up to get people, for people to realize that the streams are back up and running and to get people following along and joining the streams. And as always, these streams are available for replay on YouTube, but we're currently simultaneously live streaming across YouTube, Twitch, and X. And I do appreciate wherever you're joining from, you can join and enjoy the streams. Now, I do notice that Trader Main just went live on a Gainsey live stream. So there's also that going on right now. But you know what? We're here. We're live. It's going to probably be a little bit of a slow start, a little bit of a rocky start. It usually is once it's my first stream back after a little while. And I do apologize for the hiatus that I was on. I had a bunch of things take place in real life that I had to deal with, had to tend to, had to make some changes to everything, to my scheduling. But we're back, and I plan on making these streams a regular occurrence once again. So I do appreciate anyone who is joining. What I'm going to do is I will pull up the Bitcoin chart, and we'll take a look and see what is going on. Let me pull up my screen. Okay, there we go. So what do we have since the last time we streamed? What has taken place? Well, since the last time we streamed, Bitcoin printed a new all-time high. And I do apologize that I wasn't around to help you guys navigate that candle. I think our last stream was somewhere over here. But here we are, nevertheless. Bitcoin printed a new all-time high. In the process, though, it did print an SFP, swing fail pattern on monthly time frame. Historically, pretty solid signal for Bitcoin. You know, there are some similarities in what took place here as to what took place back in 2021. Now, the global financial situation is different than it was back then. So we're not facing the same sort of conditions as things were back then. And I'm not expecting something like this, but, you know, it wouldn't be unheard of after a monthly, as well also a weekly SFP that we put in to potentially get some sort of 20% pullback. We'll see. It's still early to tell. It kind of feels, though, on weekly especially, that price traded above this. Like, we had this range. We were trading in this weekly range here from November to February. Price broke down from the range, reclaimed it, and we caught this move. We did a pretty good job catching this move back in was that April, end of March, early April. Well, it deviated the range, it reclaimed. Now it's sort of deviated the highs and it's back within that range. So there's a potential, especially since we've entered the summer months, that we're just going to be range bound for a while. Like, there's a case to be made that, the range, deviation, reclaim, range, deviation, back inside the range. Well, now maybe we're just going to range for a while more. Like similar conditions potentially to what we saw last summer. By the way, is the mic volume loud enough? What is US Man CT? Oh, sorry, I apologize if I'm saying your name wrong. Actually, bro, I see a trader. Why predict time of crypto coins? He said that in future trading, sentiments works only. So he's using what? I don't know what you're saying there. Okay. We had a similar situation last summer, right? And we're just entering summer months now. There is that famous saying, sell in May and walk away. Well, we're after May now. It's into June. We are into June. But we had a similar situation on weekly. We had a weekly range. Price deviated below the range, reclaimed. Well, that time we didn't deviate the highs, right? Here we've sort of deviated the highs. So it's yet to be seen what takes place. Been personally waiting for a pullback potentially into this region here on BTC. There are, a lot of reasons to be bullish right now. And no real particular reasons to be bearish other than the fact that we're just trading in a range, right? And, you take out the highs of the range, well, often you'll trade to lows of the range. The lows of the range are kind of still where they were back in Q1 of the year. There's no cause for concern about anything right now. The only thing that has occurred is on Bitcoin. Let me clear this up and we'll start fresh on some of this from here. We'll get rid of all this here. So Bitcoin did make an H12 lower low, which is a high time frame market structure shift, right? This is your swing low to swing high. That was your H12 range. Well, price closed below, creating a lower low on H12. And it also closed below this area of demand, which is now flipped into supply. As we can see, price is getting stuffed at that level for now. This is your new H12 range, swing high, swing low. This is your bearish H12 range. There's your breaker zone. Earlier today, did put in an SFP here as well on H12, but it does look like this is probably going to close above, but we'll see. There's still 4.5 hours to go before then. But for now, there was an SFP after tagging the H12 breaker supply, bearish supply zone here. So we'll see what happens. A little bit early to tell. But if there was an area where you'd be looking for a potential lower high to form, it's somewhere in here, maybe even potentially up into here. But for now, this is the breaker that we're working with. We're looking for signs of potential of a lower high to form. Which we don't have yet. Yes, we're getting some signs of rejection into that breaker. We can also pull up the Monday range Price is currently trading above the Monday high. We got to close back within the Monday high a couple hours ago, but it has since closed back above. There was a case to short that as a deviation above the Monday high, but since price has reclaimed the high, that trade is currently invalid. I mean, I've been personally leaning towards that we're looking for a lower high here and that we're going to be trading in that sort of broader range, but I also don't want to, bear chart myself at a situation like this when we're trading so close to all-time highs. I think we still need a little bit more price action to develop here. This is the logical area, though, to look for a lower high. What might that look like? Well, maybe we get an H1 lower low. Ideally, after some sort of, we did get that H12 SFP there, but we're trading back above it. So maybe, if you get a H1 close below here, after the daily and H12 closes as, if it closes as an SFP, say this closes back below that level on the H12, and you flip this area, this swing low here, into a lower low, close like an H1 close below there after that H12 close. If it closes as that finishes off that SFP, well, then you have a better case for shorting. But right now, there's not really much to do here. And you don't want to get, ahead of ourselves. There's reasons to be both bullish, especially since the Bitcoin chart looks great. There's like no denying that, right? Like, it's a great looking chart. The only thing cause for concern is that weekly SFP and that monthly SFP, right? Which historically speaking, monthly SFPs have been pretty quality signal, right? You had one there, you had one there, you had one there, right? Quality signal to both sides. You had one there, right? Quality signal to both sides. So you don't want to ignore it, but you also don't want it to become too, you don't want to live by it, right? You just need to be aware of it. And the weekly as well. Weekly has historically been really quality signal. The one reason why there is a little bit of weight towards it being a more solid signal is the fact that we did get that H12 lower low. And so we are in an area where we're looking for a potential lower high with an opportunity to either short or wait to buy somewhere down here. But for now, there's no trigger yet for the short. So it needs a bit more price action to play out. Let's take a look at ETH, which has been on a tear recently. On monthly, ETH looks quite good, right? Like, came in and SFP'd a bunch of monthly levels, took out a bunch of monthly lows. The only cause for concern on ETH here is you do have this monthly breaker. So that is one area to monitor, and it's where it's finding some resistance at the moment. I had drawn that a little while back. Whether we get that, I don't know. That would be a wonderful entry on weekly on ETH to get a pullback into here, but I just don't know if that's going to happen. You also have this weekly, you have a weekly breaker here, but that's down to 2100. Is that realistic from up here? I don't know. It would require, if that was to be, and I think if ETH does come down here, that's a solid slam. Like, you definitely bid the shit out of that. But to do that, Bitcoin would have to come, do quite an aggressive pullback. Not saying that it's out of the cards, but ETH is just looking really quite strong, right? On H12, where Bitcoin made that lower low, ETH has managed to hold on to this region. I'm going to get rid of that monthly supply again because I don't think it's of severe importance at the moment. So, on Bitcoin, we made that H12 lower low, right? Well, on ETH, it hasn't made a lower low. It's held the H12 range. Gave a SFP entry a couple days ago. Now it's back towards the highs. It's given some H4 signals, right? It's put in SFPs of H4 levels up here within an area of H4 supply, right? Because H4 itself is a bearish range at the moment. But the higher time frame, the H12 is still bullish. It's holding on to the Monday high. It's tried to get back below. I mean, overall, where we are right now on coins is sort of at a bit of it could go either way scenario, right? Like you can make the case for why Bitcoin might be looking for a lower high and it goes down. Why ETH price might be stalling here, but longing here doesn't really make any sense. Shorting here until there's a better trigger doesn't really make sense. So there's not too much actionable from where we are at the moment, which is unfortunate. Like, yes, I did choose this day to stream, to come back, but it was just about getting back live and starting to do them again, because it does take a little bit of momentum to get them going again. It is like riding a bike, and as soon as I start streaming, I get right back into the flow of things. And I figured it was just good to get one fired up, and we can build some momentum. But yeah, at the moment, like, is there a trade here to take? I think you could probably take a breakout if you get an H4 close above there. You could look to long it, but from right here, it's difficult because you're right up into range highs. You're into supply. Holding on to the Monday high, above the Monday high. I think if it gets back below the Monday high, you do have a case for a short. Similar on ETH, like say this H4, you can H4 close back below the Monday high. You have a case for a short, but there's nothing really here at the moment. Like even with these H4 SFPs there, like, yeah, you could say, okay, you had an M15 trigger there. M15 lower low. Up into supply. So there is, there's a small case there. It's just M15 is such low time frame that unless you're doing really short-term scalping, it's not really what I'm looking for. Let's take a look at Solana. Solana's really gotten beaten up quite a bit. But, monthly, managed to get back above that monthly level we were watching for a long time. On weekly, it looks great. It just looks like a retest into demand on monthly, right? Like here's your area of demand. Holding on to a weekly level. H12 though, H12 has made a lower low. Actually, let me rephrase it. It made a lower low, but then actually with the overnight H12 candle, it did print a higher high. It's just this area is so condensed and this range was so small that it's hard to use that as the basis for the H12. But it is there. You did get a higher high here, right? Like this was your swing high to swing low. Well, then you put in a swing low, higher high, right? So this range actually broke as a higher high on H12, but it did run right up into supply. All right, so there's the bottom of your H12 range. The top we don't know yet, but it is into this area of supply. So it's sort of in a little bit of no man's land, Similar to on Bitcoin and Ethereum, like it's not the right area to be taking a long from. It's also not ready or given the signal yet as a short, but there is the potential that we're into areas where you might be looking for shorts on these coins. And go down to lower time frame. What do we have here? You had an H4 SFP on Solana there. We've got our Monday range mapped out. I think, a solid trigger would be closing back inside the Monday range. You got your stop above there, targeting for lower. Even after that H4 SFP, you could have had a trigger if you were playing things really tight. I think if you get a H1 market structure break, the close below here, back inside Monday range, you have a pretty solid short opportunity and setup. You kind of just need some more PA to unfold, right? Like what would that look like? Well, say you get a H1 close below this level here. That would make an H1 lower low. After that H4 SFP, well, that would make an H1 lower low, signifying that after this SFP, price wants to trade lower. What would be even better is you could get a close back inside Monday's range. Then what you do, you mark out your breaker, entry, stop, trigger the Monday low, target the Monday low, right? You would run something like this. You would run something like that, right? This is a potential short setup. It's not valid yet until, right? What do we always talk about? If this, then that, if that, then this. Well, we haven't had everything line up yet. You've had the H4 SFP. If you get an H1 close below there, preferably back inside the Monday range, you short an underside tag of the breaker, targeting Monday's low, right? Like there's a pretty simple setup. And one that's worth monitoring as the day progresses. Nothing to do up here, at least not with the system that I use. There might be moving averages that might come into play here, but for the system that I use, you're waiting for a close below, what is that, 159.35, right? If you get an H1 close below 159.35, you short a retest underside of that breaker, targeting down into there. And what is that? It's almost a 2-to-1 R, 1.87. Decent setup. Right? You're into an area of high time frame supply. You've put in an H4 SFP. If you get that H1 close below, preferably back within the Monday high, you just short down to there. It's a pretty straightforward setup and very cut and dry trigger for what that would be. So that's something I would look out for. Seeing as there aren't too many viewers, it's showing that there's only 34 people viewing. Lowest viewership I've had in a while, but you know what? That's okay. It's been a long time since I've streamed. It's going to take a little bit of building, of rebuilding consistency to get the viewers back up, to let people know that I'm back live and streaming. And I do plan on getting back live on stream a few times a week, 3 times a week. Maybe more, maybe less, depending on what's going on in the week, what is taking place in the market. Excuse me. But unfortunately, where price is right now, there's just nothing to do at the moment. Like similar here on ETH, right? You had that H1 or that H4 SFP. You had this H4 SFP within supply. If you get a close below there, which would also mean a close back within Monday's range. You set yourself up for short that looks something like this. All right. But like I said, we're waiting for if this, then that. We need those H1 close below. So you get that H1 breaker. So maybe it's some sort of version of PA that looks like this. Well, then you're looking to underside short here, targeting down into here. Yes, there is a area here that there might be. There is an area of demand there, so you need to be aware of that maybe it only runs to Monday mid. And maybe the better setup, rather than looking for the short, is just waiting for price to come here to long this demand zone here around the Monday mid. But that is a decision you need to make, especially, ETH is bullish biased, but we are hitting H4 supply, H4 SFP, you get that H1 lower low. There is a valid short there. It's just whether it's going to run to target here or if it's just going to come to here before reversing. So you need to be nimble. If you take that short, if you get the trigger for that short and you take that short, when price gets around to the Monday mid-range and this demand zone, you need to monitor it on low time frames to see if you're holding it or if you're looking to cut. Take a look back on BTC. Unfortunate thing for Bitcoin is where you would get that H1 lower low is all the way down here, which is almost back to the Monday mid. So maybe you're just not really looking to play this as a Monday range and you're just playing it as the H12 run up into H12 supply and an H1 lower low. And then what would you do? Similar thing that we've been looking at, that H1 breaker, you get a close below here. And then you'd be looking for some sort of short that looks, that wouldn't be a great R. You'd have to figure out where you'd want to be looking for that short to go. Like, is this the H12 short that takes you down into that weekly fair value gap? Possibly. And then you have a decent RR. You just need to assess for yourself whether the RR is there based on distance and whether that's a trade you want to take. Okay, well, I'm going to keep this one short. As I said, first one back. We're going to get these back up and running. We're going to make them more frequent. We're going to make them, we're going to get the consistency back, bring the viewership back up, get back in the flow of everything. Over the last month or so, I've really gone back to the drawing board to work on triggers and setups as well. I've gone down the rabbit hole of moving average theory. For people that have been with me for a while, that I'm mostly just a price action purist. I like price action. I like PA. I like to trade PA. But I found that in those moments where things start to trend on low time frame, it's really difficult to get on board. And then I'd find that I would sit there either with FOMO and entering into a position without a clear invalidation level, which meant that I was just quick to cut when it started to go against me, which is never a position you want to be in. Or that I would just not be getting into the trade because I'd be like, oh, fuck, where do I enter here? So I went down the rabbit hole of learning moving average theory. It's still a work in progress. I'm still learning it. But it definitely is a useful tool in low time frame trending environments. Pop them up and you can see. Here's on H1. Some of the moving averages. You have your low time frame EMAs that trend follow, and then some higher time frame MAs and EMAs. We can move to H4 here. I can see the scenario under which where they would be useful. If we go back to here, right? Like especially if you follow along the sort of medium to higher time frame moving averages and align that with price action. But on the low time frames, you're just following the faster moving EMAs as a trend, right? And then the trend breaks, writing it down, right? And now it looks like it's sort of recapturing the lower time frame, the faster moving EMAs, starting to get back above the slower moving averages, recapturing some levels. And I'll dive more into that as we get these streams back up and running more frequently. But it's definitely stuff I've been curious about and learning about to incorporate into my system, so that under those environments, I'm not left either on the sidelines or taking positions that don't make sense. Because price action trading is great, especially if you have patience and you've properly plotted out your areas where you want to do business and your entries, and you just sit back and let them hit. But in those moments when coins are flying left, right, and center, it is difficult not to feel FOMO and want to get on board trades. So it's a good way to balance the two, and using the two even to play off of each other. So I will get more into that in future streams. But I think I'm going to wrap it up here. Just keep it short and sweet. It is great to be back, and I will do a better job of keeping these consistent, bringing them back multiple times per week, get all of our regular viewers back joining us so that we can make some money trading these markets. I want to give a shout out to sponsors of the show, The Daily Edge, thedailyedge.com/subscribe, and ChainEDGE, ChainEDGE.io. Once again, I am 0xRapture. This has been Astrology for Men, coffee, charts, and a cigarette. And I will be back to stream in another day or two, and we'll get the consistency back up for this. But I do appreciate anyone that's joined us live, and for anyone that's watching this after the fact. Hopefully you get something out of the stream. Starting to get some selling here. If price gets back underneath the Monday range, because it's been chopping around here so much, I'm less inclined to just take it as a Monday range play. I think I do want to wait for that breaker H1 lower low. Same for ETH here. And for SOL. But we are seeing selling here. We'll see. I would monitor. And you can do this on any coin, right? Do recommend using the Spaceman BTC Monday range tool. Spaceman BTC key level automatically marks out your Monday range. It's a great way to frame trades. And as we get these streams back up and running again, I will run through the process of them. And I also want to do more basic education focused videos just on marking out ranges, market structure, supply demand zones, bias. Get back to all that good stuff so that we can do a quick refresher so everyone can get back up to speed on the system that I use. Getting that selling we're seeing. Does sort of feel like buyer exhaustion a little bit. Monitoring the Monday highs, monitoring these H1 regions for that potential lower low close to get a breaker with a clear short entry trigger. Until then, I'm not taking any trades here at the moment. And when I'm talking about these trades, these are mostly intraday. If we can catch a swing on BTC back down into that weekly fair value gap, right? Like that's a weekly zone, weekly fair value gap here. Well, that would be wonderful to try and get a proper swing trade out of it. But at the moment, no intraday trades to take from here. monitoring here, we are definitely seeing selling take place into this H12 supply, this H12 breaker zone, as well as this H4 supply zone on ETH, and this H12 supply on Solana. And next stream, we'll also get back into doing chart requests. So everyone, bring your chart requests, getting more active posting again. So let's get back to it. It is good to be back. I appreciate all of you. Once again, I am 0xRapture, and I thank you for joining. Until next time, have a great one, everybody. Ciao.